Now, I'm not going to tell you not to drink, but if you do want to be on damage control, here's what you do. Hello everyone, my name's Shay. I'm a nutrition master student and an international athlete, and we're talking about alcohol today. So basically the main two reasons you feel terrible the next morning is because your sleep quality sucked and you're dehydrated. So as far as the dehydration goes, you're probably not drinking much water, and although there's water in the drinks you're drinking, there's also alcohol, which if it's anywhere above, I think, 2.5, then it's going to have a dehydrating effect. So that's pretty much encompasses everything that you're drinking, right? So basically every drink you're going to be having, you think with drinking something you're going forwards in hydration, but not here, you're going backwards. So ideally, particularly if you're having higher ABV things like spirits, you're going to be wanting to have more water and really matching them with your drinks. Whereas for the beers and stuff, maybe just a bit of water here and there. So your friends might be laughing at you for having to go to the bathroom every half an hour, but they're probably not going to be laughing the next morning. Another thing that might be contributing to the dehydration is if you're having, the sort of foods you might have when you're drunk, like really high sodium, really salty things, that's going to dehydrate you even further because for one, sodium is going to pull in the water, and if we're not having any water, then what's it going to do, right? And as well, we need water to actually metabolize all the energy and process all the food, which again, we can't do. So it's trying to digest on borrowed water pretty much. So all things lead to dehydration. So as far as that goes, just try and get as much water down throughout the whole night. So that covers the first part, dehydration. So what about managing the actual sleep quality you're getting, which is the other big hitter of why you get hungover? So of course dehydration has a role in that, but aside from that, one of the main ones is, say if you're going to bed at 11 every night and then a big night out, you're coming home at like 2, you're not getting to bed until 3. Any big fluctuations in your regular sleep and wake cycle lead to some disruption of your rhythm, right? So this goes for if you're coming in late and you're waking up late as well, that can lead to you feeling a bit off the next morning, even if you weren't drinking. So let's say your ideal night out would be, 6 or so drinks, maybe you dance a little bit and then go home. So if it's up to you, and maybe if you're just going out with 1 or 2 more friends, I'd probably try and suggest that you get it done earlier. That way, say you start drinking at like 5 or 6, you're done drinking by, maybe 9, maybe 9:30, and then you're home at a reasonable time and you're in bed at the same time. Now this might sound a little bit boring, but for some reason a lot of people start really late and end really, really late. Kitty, it might be just 5 hours either way, so why not pick the earlier option? This allows you to have lower alcohol in your blood by the time you actually go to sleep. You can say for the average male it might be about 1 standard drink per hour that it takes to metabolize. It's not a perfect science, but if you do a little bit of math, you can think, okay, if I had 5 standards over 2 hours, you take the 2 hours to metabolize it, so we're at 3 in your system, and then 3 hours later it's going to be roughly 0, and then you're probably going to have a much better sleep than if you went to bed with 3 or 5 in your system at the time. So let's say again you go to bed at 11. If you get back at say 10 and you've got a little bit of alcohol in your system, it might be a good idea to stay up a little bit past your bedtime. Not too late, of course, because we don't want to run into too much disruption there. But if you wait until maybe an hour past and you're just drinking water, trying to rehydrate, maybe you even have like a Powerade or something, try and rehydrate and also let the alcohol metabolize a little bit so that you're going to bed reasonably close to your bedtime with your alcohol content way down. So if you do the exact opposite of this, say you go to bed at 4 completely rinsed and you have not had much water and you're pretty much going to bed at the peak of your drunkenness, you are not going to have a good time tomorrow. That is probably the worst setup you could have. You're going to feel like you got hit by a train, man. So lastly, I'll just talk about what choices of drinks are probably the best option. So I'll rule out the first one, which is darker spirits. These have what you call congeners, which give it the darker color and some of the flavoring. And these can lead to some headaches the next morning. So if you're trying to really be on damage control, then I would limit this, maybe just, if you really like whiskey, have 1 or 2, but don't make it the only thing you're drinking, I would say. A big one as well is if you're trying to watch your weight. The first one is alcohol actually has about 7 calories per gram of pure alcohol, which is actually close to the amount of fat, which is 9. Carbs and protein are about 4, so it's pretty moderate as far as calorie content. On top of that, if you're having sugary RTDs or cocktails, that's adding even more calories to it. So if you're trying to watch your weight, I would stick to clearer things, usually light beers or maybe just clear spirits. And of course with clear spirits, make sure to drink a bit more water so you don't get too dehydrated. But those would be the best options. There is some other anecdote with people saying if you get 100% agave tequila, you might be better off, and people saying you'll get a massive headache on wine. There isn't too much evidence to this, but it might be true, we just don't know yet. And just one last note here. It seems in a lot of cultures that, more drunk is always better, but if you actually are stuck in this mindset, which, I know some people who are, unfortunately, but if you just reel it back in a little bit and say maybe you're used to having 10 standards a night, maybe just have 5, see what happens. You'll probably actually enjoy yourself a little bit more because you're actually there. you're not just seeing stars the whole time. You can actually talk to people better. Can actually interact better, so I would say just keep that in mind as well. There might be people pressuring you to drink more. I mean, you can just say you're training for something, which you might be. Oh man, I got training at 9 tomorrow. I won't see you there because you are minced, but yeah, I'll be there. I'd also say don't go too heavy the day after a big training session, because if your sleep is going to be terrible, you're breaking down the muscle and it doesn't really get to repair properly, so it's just going to catabolize a little bit, so be aware of that as well. So be safe out there. I'll see you next time.